It hurts when you realize the people you laughed with are the same ones holding you back, but that pain is the doorway to your next level. Listen closely. Your life is a direct reflection of the standards around you. If your circle fears growth, you will shrink to survive with them. If your circle celebrates weakness, you'll start calling excuses reasons. Winners don't argue with reality, they redesign it. Powerful people don't beg for motivation, they build environments that demand discipline. You cannot soar with people who are comfortable crawling. Every conversation you allow either sharpens your mind or dulls your ambition. Loyalty is meaningless if it costs your future. Respect yourself enough to walk alone if necessary, because solitude with purpose is far stronger than company without direction. The moment you upgrade your circle, your habits change, your confidence rises, and your vision expands. Pressure creates diamonds, not comfort. Surround yourself with people who move fast, think big, and refuse average. Your potential is ruthless, but it requires distance from those who don't understand it. Leveling up isn't personal, it's survival, and the world only respects those who choose growth over approval. Your circle decides your ceiling. Stay with complainers and you inherit excuses. Walk with disciplined killers and you absorb standards. Cut emotional leeches without guilt. Loneliness while upgrading is temporary. Weakness from bad company is permanent. Choose rooms where pressure sharpens you, where wins are normal, where talk is backed by action, and where every day demands more from you until you become undeniable, respected, unstoppable. Discipline is the foundation of freedom, because without it, you are not living by choice. You are reacting by impulse, drifting wherever your emotions pull you, waking up every day thinking you are free while being controlled by comfort, fear, and instant gratification. Most people think freedom means doing whatever they feel like, whenever they feel like it, but that mindset is the fastest way to lose control of your life. If you wake up only when you feel motivated, work only when you feel inspired, and push only when it feels easy, then your emotions are your master and you are their servant. True freedom is the ability to act regardless of mood, to stay locked in when everything inside you wants to quit, to move forward even when nobody is watching and nothing feels rewarding yet. Discipline trains you to keep promises to yourself, and every promise kept builds self-respect. Without self-respect, confidence is fake. Without confidence, decisions become weak. Weak decisions create weak outcomes, and weak outcomes trap you in a life you secretly hate. Discipline is what separates people who talk about potential from people who actually live it. When you are disciplined, you don't negotiate with laziness, you don't debate fear, and you don't wait for the perfect moment. You execute. You move. You become reliable to yourself. Emotions are temporary, unstable, and easily manipulated by external noise. One bad day, one insult, one failure, an emotional person collapses. A disciplined person stays standing. Discipline builds structure in your life, and structure creates momentum. Momentum creates options. Options create real freedom. Without discipline, money disappears as fast as it comes. Without discipline, relationships become chaotic. Without discipline, health deteriorates quietly until pain forces awareness. Discipline is not punishment, it is protection. It protects your future from your present weaknesses. Every time you choose the harder option, you strengthen your ability to choose again tomorrow. Every time you avoid discomfort, you teach your mind that quitting is acceptable. Over time, that lesson becomes your identity. People who lack discipline blame circumstances, luck, and other people because accepting responsibility would require effort. Discipline removes excuses by exposing the truth. You are exactly where your habits placed you. When you master discipline, you gain emotional control. You stop being reactive. You stop seeking validation. You stop needing approval to move forward. You begin operating from logic, long-term vision, and self-command. This is where freedom lives, not in chaos, but in control. A disciplined person can enjoy rest without guilt, pleasure without addiction, and success without arrogance. Because everything is earned. Freedom is not the absence of rules, it is the presence of self-made rules that align with your goals. The world respects disciplined individuals because they are predictable in performance and dangerous in consistency. Discipline turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results over time. It compounds silently while others waste years chasing motivation. When life hits hard, and it always does, discipline is what keeps you moving when motivation disappears completely. If you cannot control your actions, you will never control your outcomes. If you cannot control your outcomes, you will never be free. Freedom is earned daily through discipline, and those unwilling to pay that price will remain prisoners of their emotions, forever calling it living. Discipline is the foundation of freedom because emotions are unreliable leaders, and if you allow them to steer your life, you will crash into the same regrets again and again. Emotions feel powerful in the moment, but they are short-sighted, selfish, and weak under pressure. One day you feel unstoppable, the next day you feel empty, and if your actions depend on how you feel, your progress will always reset to zero. Discipline removes that chaos. It creates a system where you act because it must be done, not because it feels good. When you lack discipline, comfort becomes your prison. You start choosing ease over excellence, pleasure over progress, and validation over truth. You tell yourself lies like tomorrow, later, or when I'm ready, not realizing those words are chains. A disciplined person doesn't wait to feel ready. They move while feeling resistance. That resistance is not a sign to stop. It's proof you are growing. Emotional people avoid discomfort and call it self-care, but disciplined people understand that short-term pain creates long-term peace. Without discipline, your mornings start late, your goals stay blurry, and your standards slowly drop. You begin accepting less, not because you want to, but because you trained yourself to quit. Discipline restores authority over your own mind. It teaches you that feelings are information, not commands. You can feel fear and still act. You can feel tired and still show up. You can feel unmotivated and still execute. That ability is freedom. When you are disciplined, your word means something, especially to yourself. You don't rely on hype, music, or motivation to perform. You rely on identity. You become the type of person who does what needs to be done regardless of circumstances. That identity changes everything. Money starts to grow because you don't waste it emotionally. Your body changes because you don't eat or train based on mood. Your relationships improve because you don't react impulsively. You respond deliberately. Discipline gives you patience, and patience gives you power. People without discipline are easily controlled by trends, opinions, addictions, and other people's expectations. They think they are free, but they are predictable, reactive, and dependent. A disciplined person is dangerous because they cannot be distracted. They see long-term while others chase quick dopamine. They delay gratification while others sabotage their future for temporary pleasure. This is why discipline feels hard at first. It is killing the version of you that wants comfort over greatness. Every time you choose discipline, you are choosing your future self over your current impulses. That choice builds confidence, because confidence is not loud words, it's proven reliability. You trust yourself because you've seen yourself endure. Emotional slavery looks like overthinking, procrastination, jealousy, and inconsistency. Discipline breaks those patterns by creating clarity and structure. You know what to do, when to do it, and why it matters. There is peace in that. Real peace doesn't come from avoiding stress. It comes from knowing you can handle it. Discipline prepares you for pressure so pressure doesn't break you. When life hits you with loss, failure, or rejection, emotions will scream, but discipline will keep you moving. That movement is survival. That survival becomes strength, and that strength becomes freedom. Freedom is waking up knowing your life is under your command. Freedom is not being controlled by cravings, fear, or other people's opinions. Freedom is earned through daily discipline, repeated when no one is watching. Those who refuse that work will always be ruled by how they feel, trapped in cycles they pretend to accept, calling emotional chaos normal life, while disciplined individuals quietly build a reality that others only talk about. Discipline is the foundation of freedom, because freedom without control is just another form of slavery dressed up as choice. When you lack discipline, your emotions decide your schedule. Your reactions decide your reputation, and your impulses decide your future. You may think you're in charge, but look closer. How often do you quit when it gets uncomfortable, procrastinate when it gets hard, or react when silence would have been stronger? That's not freedom. That's emotional captivity. Emotions are unstable by nature. They rise and fall based on sleep, stress, opinions, and circumstances outside your control. If you let them lead, your life becomes inconsistent, and inconsistency destroys momentum. Discipline steps in where emotions fail. It gives you the power to act with clarity instead of chaos, to move forward even when your mind is loud and your motivation is silent. Most people want results without structure, confidence without commitment, and success without sacrifice. Discipline exposes that fantasy. It forces you to confront who you really are when excuses are gone. When you are disciplined, you stop romanticizing comfort and start respecting progress. You no longer ask, "Do I feel like it?" You ask, "What must be done?" That shift alone separates leaders from followers. Emotional people live in reaction mode. One bad comment ruins their day. One failure destroys their confidence. One delay makes them quit. Disciplined people absorb pressure and keep moving. They don't panic when things go wrong because they've trained themselves to stay steady under stress. That steadiness is power. Discipline builds resilience by teaching you to endure discomfort without needing immediate reward. Every time you do the hard thing instead of the easy thing, you reinforce control over yourself. That control compounds. It shows up in your body, your bank account, your mindset, and your presence. People feel it when you walk into a room, calm, grounded, unshaken. Without discipline, you chase pleasure and avoid pain, but life doesn't work that way. Pain avoided today returns with interest tomorrow. Discipline makes you pay the price early so you can live easier later. It removes the need for constant motivation because your actions are no longer dependent on feeling good. You train yourself to function even when tired, bored, or frustrated. That's when real progress happens. Discipline also protects you from self-betrayal. Every broken promise to yourself weakens your identity. Over time, you stop trusting your own word, and when you don't trust yourself, you hesitate, overthink, and seek external validation. Discipline rebuilds that trust by aligning your actions with your intentions. You say you'll do something, and you do it, no drama, no excuses. That reliability creates inner confidence that cannot be shaken by opinions or setbacks. Emotional slavery looks like reacting before thinking, speaking before understanding, and quitting before growing. Discipline slows you down just enough to choose wisely. It gives you emotional intelligence, not by suppressing feelings, but by placing them in their proper position. You feel everything, but you are ruled by nothing. That is freedom. Discipline creates boundaries, and boundaries create peace. You know when to work, when to rest, when to say no, and when to push harder. Without discipline, everything blends together. Work becomes stressful, rest becomes guilt, and life feels overwhelming. With discipline, your life gains structure, and structure creates space to breathe. People misunderstand discipline as restriction, but it is actually permission. The permission to become who you're capable of being. The undisciplined mind is easily distracted, easily offended, and easily defeated. The disciplined mind is focused, patient, and relentless. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need approval. It doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. It just executes. When challenges come, and they always do, emotions will tell you to escape, complain, or quit. Discipline will tell you to adapt, endure, and advance. One path leads to regret, the other to respect, both from the world and from yourself. Freedom is not waking up with no rules. It is waking up with self-command. If you cannot control your actions, you will always be controlled by circumstances. If you cannot override your emotions, they will dictate your destiny. Discipline gives you the final say. It turns chaos into order, weakness into strength, and potential into reality. Without it, you live reacting. With it, you live deciding. And the ability to decide consistently, calmly, and correctly is the highest form of freedom a person can ever earn. Discipline is the foundation of freedom because a life without it slowly hands control to impulses, moods, and outside influences until you no longer recognize who is making your decisions. At first, it feels harmless, skipping one task, giving in once, reacting emotionally instead of thinking. But repeated enough times, those moments build a pattern, and patterns build destiny. People who lack discipline believe they are choosing freely, yet their choices are predictable. They do what feels good now and avoid what feels hard. That isn't freedom, it's conditioning. Emotions are powerful, but they are not intelligent leaders. They change with hunger, fatigue, rejection, praise, and pressure. If your actions depend on them, your life will always be unstable. Discipline creates stability where emotions create chaos. It teaches you to act with intention instead of impulse, to follow a standard instead of a feeling. When you are disciplined, you stop being surprised by your own inconsistency. You become someone you can rely on. That reliability is rare and rarity is power. Without discipline, you chase motivation like a drug, always needing another hit to keep going. With discipline, you move even when motivation disappears because your identity is stronger than your mood. This is where real freedom begins, when you are no longer controlled by the need to feel good before doing what is necessary. Discipline sharpens your mind by forcing clarity. You know what matters, what doesn't, and what must be done regardless of discomfort. Emotional people confuse business with progress and passion with direction. Disciplined people build systems, routines, and habits that quietly win over time. They don't need dramatic moments, they trust consistency. Discipline also builds emotional strength. Instead of exploding, panicking, or collapsing when things go wrong, you stay grounded. You respond instead of reacting. That emotional control changes how people treat you and how you see yourself. When you know you can handle pressure, fear loses its grip. When fear loses its grip, options open up. Options are freedom. A disciplined life creates space to think clearly, space to plan long-term, space to enjoy success without anxiety. Without discipline, even success feels stressful because it's fragile. You know it can disappear as fast as it came. Discipline makes success repeatable. It removes luck from the equation and replaces it with standards. Many people resent discipline because it exposes their excuses. It shows them that the life they want is not blocked by fate, but by habits they refuse to change. Discipline demands accountability, and accountability is uncomfortable for those who prefer to blame. But on the other side of that discomfort is peace. Peace comes from knowing you are doing what needs to be done, even when no one is watching. That peace is addictive in the best way. It creates quiet confidence, not loud arrogance. Discipline also protects your future self. Every disciplined action today is a gift to who you will be tomorrow. Every undisciplined action is a debt with interest. People who live emotionally borrow from their future for present pleasure, then wonder why life feels heavy later. Discipline reverses that cycle. It makes you pay the price up front so the reward lasts longer. Over time, discipline becomes less about force and more about identity. You no longer struggle to do the right thing because it aligns with who you are. At that point, freedom isn't something you chase, it's something you live. You wake up knowing your day won't be hijacked by distractions, drama, or doubt. You know your emotions will show up, but they won't be in control. You feel them, acknowledge them, and move anyway. That ability separates leaders from followers, builders from talkers, and adults from children trapped in grown bodies. Discipline is not about being harsh. It is about being honest. Honest about your weaknesses, honest about your goals, and honest about the work required to bridge the gap. When you master discipline, you stop negotiating with the part of you that wants to quit. You silence it with action, and action builds momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence builds courage. Courage builds a life that is directed, not drifted. Without discipline, emotions run your life and call it freedom. With discipline, you run your life and earn it. That is the difference between existing and commanding your existence. And understand this as you move forward. Discipline is not something you switch on once and keep forever. It is a daily decision, a quiet agreement you make with yourself every single morning to live by standards instead of moods. Some days you will feel strong, other days you will feel empty. But discipline does not ask how you feel, it asks who you decided to become. When the world is loud and distractions are everywhere, discipline becomes your anchor. It keeps you grounded when emotions try to pull you in every direction. This is how freedom is built, not in dramatic breakthroughs, but in small, repeated acts of self-control that compound over time. Every disciplined action is proof that you are in command of your life. Every time you choose effort over ease, you reinforce the belief that you are capable of more. That belief changes how you walk, how you speak, how you handle pressure. You stop chasing approval because you already respect yourself. You stop fearing hardship because you know you can endure it. This is the kind of freedom most people never experience, the freedom of self-mastery. It cannot be given, it cannot be borrowed, and it cannot be faked. It is earned through consistency, through sacrifice, through showing up when it's uncomfortable. Choose discipline, and you choose a life where your future is not decided by emotions, but by intention, strength, and unwavering control.